Welcome to Sport Classics and a look at the man who guided England to the World Cup in 1966. Sir Alf Ramsey allowed the cameras to take a close look at his management technique in 1969.
When the whistle goes, a manager can only watch and wait and hope. The strain is the same for the novice or the knight. To unknowing commuters on the 8:35 from Ipswich, Sir Alfred Ramsey could be a bank manager who'd forgotten his briefcase, a major in mufti, or the man from the Prue. In fact, he's the first ever total dictator of England's national soccer team. He travels 69 miles to London each morning and 69 miles back home each night. His favourite meal is prawn cocktail and grilled Dover sole. A man of predictable habit and conservative taste. A man who can command without raising his voice. A man of intense professional pride and admitted prejudice. A man known wherever football is played, yet a man who remains an enigma to those who have known him closest and longest.
I've never seen him have too much to drink. I've never heard him swear or lose his temper uncontrollably like I do sometimes.
I always feel that I like to know what he's thinking about.
I don't think anyone really got close to Alf. He was a bit of a lone wolf.
It's very difficult to think that the man on the terrace is no Alf.
The human man? No, Alf Ramsey is a football man, and that's really all I know about him.
I would like this explained to me sometime. I don't understand it. I wish they would tell me that I'm remote. In what way? I just don't know. Difficult to get to know. I think this is fair, and I should be difficult to get to know, in that these people, this remark would come from press and from radio commentators.
It would come from players. People
come from players.
Yes, people who've known you for many years.
I'm surprised.
They don't say it unpleasantly, but they say it's difficult.
I'm surprised. This is referred. I'm referred to be in this and that by newspaper men or football writers, most certainly, and. It's only because I feel that they want something from me that I'm not prepared to give them. In that, you see, I can live without them because I'm judged by the results that the England team get. And I doubt very much whether they can live without me as the England team manager, or even the England team. Yes, Astor's in bed with flu.
He's with you?
Yes, he's in bed with flu. Eustace is unfit, and Clark has been released.
Alf Ramsey was born 47 years ago at 6 Parish Cottages, Wood Lane, Dagenham, Essex. 45 years later, he became a knight at the court of Queen Elizabeth. Like all sporting knights, he'd become a national hero. But unlike most of them, he actually hesitated before accepting the honour.
When you talk about difficult to live up to, I mean, are you referring here to the fact that, like all of us, you know, you come from a working class home? Good stock, a working class home from the east side of London, I'll put it that way.
I'm not ashamed of that. I have got nothing to be ashamed of.
Of course. Yeah. But I mean, is this what you're saying was...
Remember, I think in the main, yes, because one did not know what it involved. And I think probably this concerned me to some great extent.
What has it involved, in fact? How has it changed your life?
I don't think it's changed my life to any great extent. I'm still Alf Ramsey to all and sundry.
Ramsey was certainly Alf to everyone at 15 when he went to work at the local co-op, delivering groceries on one of those front-heavy bicycles. His father died just before England won the World Cup, but his mother still lives down the road from the co-op. As errand boys go, Alf was exemplary, but already soccer was his passion.
George White wanted to play some football, and we were looking for some blokes to play football, and we played a few games, we weren't doing too well. Someone suggested Darky Ramsey. So someone asked him, and he agreed to play, and that was it.
Was he useful?
I mean, he was the team, but he was mainly the team. I mean, I'm not going to say that he was Five Elms, but he was mainly the team. He was the centre half and the, you know, just like a rock there, right in the middle.
Anything to oblige.
Can we have a row kneeling, chaps?
That's right, you organise them, it will save me doing it. And it should be a good photograph, then.
Even as a schoolboy defender, Ramsey was ready to express his soccer opinions forcibly. So forcibly on one occasion that he was sent off and suspended for informing a notoriously unlearned schoolmaster referee that his knowledge of the rules was minimal, or words to that effect. Discretion and diplomacy have come with the years, but one aspect of Ramsey's character has never changed: a congenital hatred of losing.
Right. And if you gentlemen could depart now, and leave us to do some work. Just a minute, you lads, before you go, please. Just a moment. I'm a bad loser. I love to win. If it's a competitive game, then I like to be a winner.
How far are you prepared to go to win? I'm thinking now ethically.
Oh dear. Now let's be fair about this. I would not think in terms of doing anything that would be unpleasant. In terms of playing tiddlywinks and drafts and things such as that, I wouldn't do. I wouldn't cheat. I wouldn't cheat. Well, I don't think I would cheat. I think we're all, somewhere we've all cheated a little sometime. I think this most certainly is true of I. I don't think I would cheat at drafts or tiddlywinks. It's difficult to cheat at darts unless you're taking your own scores. I'm not suggesting I would cheat at football. Most certainly I would be a professional at football. I would be a professional in my particular job. And I would go to the extent that I would be a complete professional if it was necessary to win a particular match.
The particular match for which England trained here was against France at Wembley. Ramsey, the coach, was quiet and undemonstrative. There was no hint of the quartermaster sergeant, which was what Ramsey became when he left the co-op and went to the war. Ramsey was still in the army when he played his first game for Southampton. In his very first match he distinguished himself by scoring, though unfortunately through his own goal. The tragedy was brief. His talent was evident, and at the war's end he signed as a pro. His former colleagues there remember him as quiet but visibly ambitious. Among them is Southampton's present manager, Ted Bates.
Well, he played his first match for us against Luton in the wartime league.
Yeah.
He played centre-half this day, and this, of course, was my first recollection of him. And he was a little bit short for the centre-half position because of his size.
Yeah.
But he obviously looked to play with great potential then.
But Tim, what was he like as a chap?
He's quiet, almost reserved, I would say. You could very seldom get too close to him, but at the same time, if you wanted to talk to him, he would always be willing to talk about anything.
But my earliest recollections of Alf was when we come out the forces. Now Alf was a broad Cockney lad. He spoke broad Cockney, like I've got the Newcastle accent. So had Alf had the London accent. But as the years went on, and I think this happened when he went to Tottenham, he did something about this. He realised, well, I'm going to make my mark in football. Here was the man thinking again determinedly. He was going to get to the top of the tree, so he was going to do something about his speech. And he took elocution lessons, as far as I know, and he put this right.
Most probably, if he'd have decided, I'll stay in the army, he'd have most probably finished up a general. You know what I mean? I think he was this type of man.
These, of course, were the days before footballers owned boutiques. Ramsey lived just behind the ground in digs at 92 Milton Road. His landlady, Mrs. Annie Hill, is now 84.
One of the nicest men you could ever meet.
Was he?
No pride, no nonsense, never refused anything. There was no more trouble than it could possibly be. Every Christmas I've had a card. Every Christmas. He never missed once. I wrote and congratulated when he was knighted. I think he'd much rather be called Alf Ramsey. I should never call him nothing else anyhow. If I ever met and I should call him Alf, I should miss the sir.
He was a player who was obviously ambitious. I mean, he wanted to go as far as possible. I mean, First Division, etc., with a good size. And this eventually came about because when we came back from South Africa, the next thing we knew, out of the blue, he went to Spurs, and we got Ernie Jones and X number of pounds, whatever it was.
So you'd say, really, I mean, he left Southampton to make sure that he was a regular.
I think so. And the team he went into at the time, Spurs, with Arthur Owen in charge, the old push and run stuff, and was ideal for Alf. Yeah. Perfect.
The transfer to Spurs in 1949 indeed set Ramsey on the road. How did his new colleagues regard him at Spurs?
Well, at the time he came, we didn't know much about him. We had a very good team at the time. And I remember that there was a lot of controversy as to whether it was a good transfer or not. But when he joined us, it was obvious that he was a good player.
Yeah.
And he fit into our defence very well indeed.
Yeah. That's fitting in tactically, but as a man, did he tend to be a bit of a loner?
Oh, he's a very difficult man to get inside of.
Yeah.
In regards to football, he would talk and he would talk and he would talk, but anything outside football, and I never knew him at all.
But he was good at plonking it there, no doubt about that. He was a very accurate kicker.
When it came to the real crunch tackle, though, in a bad situation...
He would do it, he would do it. Yeah, he would do it, yeah. If he had to, yeah.
Did he hand it out?
Yeah, if he had to. I mean, he's a professional footballer. And don't matter how nice a bloke you're supposed to be, I mean, whether you like it or not, when it comes a situation, then nice people don't let people put the ball in it.
I remember in 1952, I think it was, touring with the England team in South America, and we stayed at a country club outside of Buenos Aires, and Alf and I were rooming together, and we hadn't been to bed an hour or so when I was awakened by a peculiar noise which to me sounded like a cricket. And Alf was still sleeping merrily away, and I got out of bed, looked under my bed, I looked under Alf's bed, I opened the wardrobes, lifted the shoes from under the bed, and eventually found my cricket was Alf gnashing his teeth in his sleep.
He was a good footballer in a good team. I feel that there came a stage in his career, the same as in mine and most old players, that you get a feeling that you've come to the end, and all of a sudden someone may come along and say to you, would you like to do this or would you like to do that? I think that happened to him. I think it was Ipswich who came along when he was probably at the end at Tottenham, and he took this job on at Ipswich, and from there on he went forward. I don't know if he thought about doing it. He never said to me he did, but I remember that he was here one day and gone the next.
Why Ipswich? Well, I think probably it could have been any club. Ipswich was the club that approached me, the first club to approach me, and I liked the people that I was dealing with, and in any case I was a novice at this. I'd had no experience of managership, and this was not a bad way to start if one had ambitions towards becoming a successful manager. I think the most important thing was getting to know the players, to understand them, learning to deal with them, learning to assess them in actual fact. When you think in terms of your Jimmy Ledbetter's, now this was a magnificent footballer. He didn't look much like a footballer. In actual fact, he looked the most unlikeliest of professional footballers. But as a footballer, he was second to none. And I think probably the one disturbing feature is that of this era is that Jimmy Ledbetter or no one at Ipswich received any recognition for what the club achieved.
To me, Alf Ramsey is a wonderful man. He knows his football. There's no man knows his football better than Alf Ramsey. And I'd like to say here and now that if it wasn't for Alf Ramsey, the boys that was under him, I think I speak for all the boys that played under his championship team, that we wouldn't have been better players without Alf Ramsey. He led us. I know that we played natural football the way we wanted to play, but Alf was there leading us without us realising it. He was always behind us.
It was with John Cobbold, the Ipswich chairman, that Ramsey formed one of his closest relationships. Cobbold was present on one of the rare occasions when Ramsey let his hair down in public.
Well, I don't think Alf will like this one much, but he'll have to lump it. After he had got us from the 3rd Division to the 2nd Division, we were down at Southampton, and we had to spend the night down there, so we organised a quiet party. And at one moment I looked round, and there was Alf under a table singing "Maybe It's Because I'm a Londoner."
For a novice manager, Ramsey's success at Ipswich was staggering. The story's told that after watching his first match there, he was ready to pack his bags and go. They were in the 3rd Division and revealed every prospect of staying there. But then the run began. 1957, promotion from 3rd Division to 2nd. 4 years later, promotion from 2nd Division to 1st. 12 months later, Ipswich, League Champions of England. While the big, fashionable clubs shook their heads in bewilderment, Ipswich celebrated, country style.
Ladies and gentlemen, is that on? Mr. Cobbold, Mr. Ramsey, and the team, on behalf of the citizens of Ipswich, I offer congratulations to our football team on their wonderful achievement in starting at the bottom and reaching to the top of the 1st Division in one season. Mr. Ramsey is about the most unobtrusive man I know. But he must have a wonderful personality to create such a team spirit.
Well, Mr. Mayor, you said some very kind things about us, Your Worship. You mentioned the unobtrusive Mr. Ramsey. I wish you ought to have seen him in Hamburg. Yeah. But entirely due to Mr. Ramsey and his players, since he's been with us, Ipswich Town have met with more success than any other football club in the country.
Mr. Mayor, you've been so kind to invite us here again. We like coming here. I like coming here anyway. I don't know whether the players do. Normally they don't drink. Well, that's what we try to tell that's what I try to tell myself. You mustn't believe all the stories the chairman tells. If you had seen me in Hamburg, you'd have seen that the ringleader of the party was the chairman.
But for Ipswich, there was a gathering cloud in the summer sky. England itself was looking for a soccer manager to succeed Walter Winterbottom after a shake-up at the FA. One candidate turned them down. The next knock was on Alf Ramsey's door.
To start off with, I think he was rather diffident about it. Not because he was scared of the job at all. I mean, Alf has never been scared of anything as regards football, or anything else for that matter, I shouldn't think. And I think the reason was that he was very happy in Ipswich. I hope he was. I think he must be, because he's still living down here. And literally, he asked me, he said, what should I do? Will you advise me? And so I said, well, Alf, you cannot turn, in your profession, you cannot turn down the top job.
Welcome back to Sport Classics. We rejoin Sir Alf as he moves into international management with England.
I knew nothing at all about international football. I had not looked at players in terms of being international players. Well, the people that I talked to, this is rather nice, the nice thing about it, the people that I talked to and sought advice from, they were adamant that I could do the job. My wife, for example, she wasn't particularly keen, I don't think, on my taking the position, but she thought that I would, if anyone could do it, that I would.
For Ramsey, it was a transformation from tracksuit to pinstripe. He gave up the daily banter and bargaining with players for an office near Hyde Park. Undoubtedly, he would never have looked at the job unless he'd been guaranteed full control.
I think the FA realise the position of a team manager. If he is going to take full responsibility, he must be given full control. And while the question of selection of teams in regard to disciplinary matters, this is a tremendous headache in many ways as part of our national image and so on. But we have to put our confidence, so to speak, in the skipper, and we have to rely on his judgment for this. We expect him to produce, first of all, success, but we also expect him to project the game and present the game in a way which is going to higher our national image. Now, this is something that doesn't always happen in football, even in the best circles, but it is something that we're well aware of, and we would still rely on his judgment.
His biggest frustration is that for weeks on end he has no team to manage. Even when he has, he's at the mercy of league clubs, who are quite often reluctant to release players for an international. It's a situation that demands all Ramsey's tact, and makes his job all the harder in the brief 2 days that he does have England's players under his wing.
My main job, or my main task, is to get them together as a team. And it's surprising how much they draw away from each other in a space of a month or 2 months, during which time there have been no international matches. I think the important thing is to get them to mix again, to think in terms of playing together again, and probably the most important thing, that they are playing for England.
The importance of getting results for England demands far more of Ramsey than merely chalking intricate tactical triangles on a blackboard. If you casually mention during a meal that you've been to Mexico, he'll machine gun you down with a volley of questions. What time of year was it? How were the temperatures? Could you breathe freely at altitude? Did you sleep well at night? Nothing's left to chance. The yellow fever injections his players need by the next World Cup are attended to 15 months in advance. The film is the last time England played France. Ramsey, they say, can distill the most complicated analysis into the simplest terms. One player who's seen him do it again and again is England's captain.
He's a man who lets his players know exactly what he wants. I think his method is very simple. He's 100% fair with the players, and by the players knowing exactly what his demands are, it's far easier them to give him what he wants.
He's always been exactly the same to me. You never know. After a game, you usually feel, or you like to feel, that the manager looks at you and you think, oh, I've done well for him.
Yeah.
But with Alf, you could walk off the Wembley Stadium after playing international, and until you pick the papers up or someone tells you on the car on the way home, you never know whether you played well or you haven't played well, really. As far as he's concerned, he's always exactly the same after a game. Just says, well played, or see you next time, or well, he never says I'll see you next time. He always just says well played and leaves it at that.
Has he got a sense of humour?
Oh, aye.
The man closest to Ramsey from the moment he became England manager is trainer Harold Shepperson from Middlesbrough. But what does a new boss say when he inherits a national team? Shepperson recalls it well. Ramsey surveyed his candidates and then gave them a straight ultimatum.
He assembled all the players, he talked to the players, and he told them what he wanted, he told them how we were going to do it and why we were going to do it, and then he dropped the bombshell. He said, if any of you feel that you're not able to subject yourself to this type of discipline and work we're going to do, just say so now, and you can catch the next train home. I shan't feel any the worse about you, and at the same time, I've got to get people who will do what I want them to do and work the way I want them to work. Naturally, nobody got up and walked out. Everybody accepted the fact. The story that I laugh about, really, is during the Portugal match in the semi-final of the World Cup. We were leading 1-0, and Bobby Charlton suddenly rattled in this second goal, which more or less put us into the final of the World Cup. Les Cocker, Dr. Bass and myself immediately leapt off the seat, arms in the air. Alf sat there, poker-faced. The bench tumbled down. He fell flat on his bottom on the floor. He just looked up and said, I wish you buggers could control yourselves.
Ramsey surely must have been the only Englishman who wanted to sit still on the afternoon of the World Cup final 1966. More than a year previously, he'd indulged in an extraordinarily uncharacteristic piece of bravado when he promised rather than prophesied that England would win the World Cup. From that moment, the pressures grew. Through the build-up games, then the early rounds of the Cup, through a classic semi-final to this, the World Cup final against West Germany. But even then there was to be a climax beyond the implausible dreams of a fiction writer. With the final whistle about to proclaim England the champions of the world, Germany equalised. Ahead still lay an eternity of 30 minutes extra time, a test to sort out men from supermen. Ramsey betrayed no emotion. What did he tell his men at that moment?
What I did try to do was to get them up on their feet. A good number of them were sitting down, and they were rubbing their legs and massaging their legs, and they were sitting down resting. And I thought this was the worst possible thing. I tried to get them up on their feet. I thought it was important that they inferred to all and sundry that that they were ready for the next half an hour, or ready for the half an hour of extra time. It was important that we established some sort of psychological benefit over the Germans.
An England player tells the story that Ramsey said something else too. You've beaten them once, he told them, you might as well do it again. At which Ramsey returned to the touchline and England duly scored a third goal. And then a fourth from Hurst to win the World Cup. Amid scenes of hysteria, one man remained seated, Alf Ramsay.
Well, it was difficult for me to get up. You notice that the players that hadn't played were in the stand throughout the match. Remember, they had come down from the stand. We had to find a place for them, and they sat behind us. And when the final whistle went, there was Jimmy Armfield stood behind me. He was literally thumping me on the back, and I just couldn't get up. It gave me tremendous pleasure to see these people jumping up in the air, and I took it all in those moments, because I would never have another opportunity of doing so.
Wembley, March 1969, and the voracious appetites of crowds conditioned to success are building up the pressures all over again. It's not the last World Cup that fills their minds, but the next. In the dressing room, Alf Ramsey is a reassuring figure, urbane, apparently relaxed. The match against France is on paper a pushover, but headlines haunt him, headlines like England goal famine and what has Ramsey got against Greece. Ramsey, in fact, is a poor self-publicist. If his actions don't speak for themselves, then he won't bother to fill in the gaps. He suffers fools not at all, and frequently gives the impression that journalists are his least favourite race. Two leading writers talk about him.
Is he press conscious, publicity conscious?
He's very sensitive, let's put it that way. Yeah. He tries to infer that he couldn't care less about what people think about him, but I know differently, and I think Brian knows.
Well,
most
yes,
definitely.
indeed. This card index memory you talk about, this comes through. He remembers every word that's ever been written. He doesn't come charging up to you next day and say, how dare you say this about players, but you find that you may have criticised blogs or something in 1963, and then in 1967 blogs will have a good game, and you'll say this to, you'll mention made some point about this, Alf, and you'll say, yes, but what about what you said about him 8 years ago? And, this can be a wee bit disconcerting, let's be honest about it.
Tell him I'll leave him. I'll meet him at the hotel.
It's weeks since England's last match, most of which Ramsey has spent in the silence of a tiny office in Lancaster Gate. But now it's action. At the end of this tunnel, 85,000 spectators, 150 critics, and a solid wall of sound.
One might say not the best of evenings.
I'm always nervous before an international match. When managing Ipswich, it wasn't so difficult because you had a match every week. Sometimes you played 2 matches a week. At international level, when the team has a disappointing match or they have a disappointing result, this can stay with me for months until the next match. This is terrible. I believe in football, I believe in good football, I believe in playing to the rules of the game. I do not believe that the rules should be infringed outside of being a professional. If you're suggesting that you deliberately kick opposing players, you deliberately bring down, that is trip, or charge over or barge over or knock over opposing players deliberately, I would say no. If you're thinking in terms of tackling hard, playing determinedly, that is to go in to win possession of the ball within the rules of the game, then I would say this is so. This is the type of play, in any case, that I would support at any time.
Half-time, England have been close to scoring 5 times, but they lead only 1-0. Ramsey's face has betrayed nothing. The second half. Outclassing France is not enough. England must get goals if the absence of Greaves isn't to become an even hotter back-page issue on every breakfast table. But the critic doesn't exist who's ever swayed Ramsey's thinking. Greaves told Ramsey that he didn't mind being in the England 11, but wasn't so keen to take his chance among a squad of 22. Exit Greaves.
Good there, is it?
But England now are playing well. The goals are coming, and at the far end of the bench, the French manager looks as though he wishes that rendering of the Marseillaise hadn't been quite so Napoleonic. Not that Ramsey's face would ever tell you who's winning. But a Hurst penalty clinches it. A fleeting smile, and then the mask drops again. After all, it's still only 5-0 to England.
Do you think in terms of goals, Alf, that this makes up for the disappointments?
It never makes up for disappointments. I think, you see, you in the main, you have to convince players that they are good players, brilliant players, outstanding players, international players, if you like. In the last half an hour of that particular match against Romania, we had desperation, and this is the effect. Yeah. This is the effect that brilliant football without success can achieve, in that it must affect players along these lines. They wouldn't be human beings if they weren't affected. And I'm very pleased and happy because they have worked so hard to achieve a good result. And I think this has been proved by the spectators, regardless of what I read in the paper or the public read in the newspapers. I feel that they've been brainwashed by all and sundry, yet they still come to Wembley to support the England team, mainly because they like what they see.
You said that one day, Alf, that somebody's going to feel them right.
Yeah, but I said this 2 years ago, and you see, you people, I can't quite understand you in that, you see, having said a thing, you harp on this, you harp on it time and time again. And this is ridiculous. This was said of a particular team at a particular time. Yet 2 years later, you are still repeating this. You see, and another thing, I buy the Daily Mail to read on the train. I'll tell you why I buy the Daily Mail. Because we have a Dachshund, and I enjoy reading Fred Bassett. Because I see Fred Bassett in our own little dog.
We've got a Bassett home.
And an article in this particular paper on Saturday, whilst I was travelling to Stoke to see them play Leeds, referred to the man that destroyed England at Hampden Park 15 months ago or a year ago. The man that destroyed England was left out of a First Division side last Saturday. This man destroyed England. I might tell you that my remarks after that particular match was that England outclassed Scotland. And in actual fact, this particular player played for England, I felt, on this occasion. And you see, the public will read this 15 months or a year later, and I think it's wrong that these things should be brought up, because I'm certain that this particular man did not see the international match. Most certainly he ought to get his facts right. And I think all credit to the public, all credit to the England team, the public for supporting the England team in the manner they have done.
In fact, in a nutshell, credit to
and the
everybody
for the
except
manner
the
in which they
British
played. Well, you put it right, because I hate to think what you would have had to say about me and the England team if we hadn't have got the goals tonight.
Back among his players, Ramsey's personality changes. He is first, last and always a player's man. There's little doubt that this is the key to his success. These players are prepared to follow him to the ends of the earth. If they weren't, they wouldn't be here. Ramsey, meanwhile, returns to his home in Valley Road, Ipswich. A long journey, but the Ramseys looked at plenty of houses in London and decided to stay right where they were. It's what the estate agents call a superior residence, superbly furnished and meticulously kept. In the absence of their daughter, now married and living in America, the only other occupant of the house is a Dachshund. But what of the head of the house? Has he changed at all down the years?
Well, I think obviously he's changed because from a player to a manager, the responsibility is so much greater, isn't it? So he's bound to have changed to a certain extent. But personally, I mean, say in the home and our life, no. He's still, you know, tolerant and sort of understanding, generous, you know. And we have our conflicts, obviously. Everybody does, but not to any great extent. We usually shake hands afterwards, you know, sort of make it up.
Again, I get very little time for hobbies, in that I enjoy playing golf. I don't play very often, and I don't take it seriously. I do get a tremendous amount of enjoyment out of it when I do play. I enjoy going out in the garden. I used to collect coins until I lost my collection.
That was in a robbery?
Yes. I don't think I shall continue collecting them anymore. Outside of that, I get very little time to do anything. I mean, well, that's enough. Mind you, we've got a fair-sized garden, and I'm not at home all that often.
You've got a wonderful collection here of your football trophies from right the way through your career. I mean, you're obviously a very methodical man about these things, and these are beautifully laid out.
That's nothing to do with me whatsoever. That's my wife. My wife's department. She looks after them and tidies them up and keeps them in order.
Who are the men in life, not in football, but in normal living, whom you most admire? 2 or 3 men.
I never thought about this to any great extent. Life in general, or
life in general.
Football?
No, away from football.
Don't ask me that.
All right, let's grab it. Let's grab that one there. Can I get back to football? Can I get back on a couple of points?
Let's talk about football. Don't complicate things, for example. You see how limited I am and how narrow my life is. No hobbies.
No.
The biggest problem I find, and speaking about any improvement in respect of football I would like to see, one would think, from my point of view, of international football, and the biggest difficulty I come up against, and most certainly the players, is the difference in interpretation of the rules, and I would like to see better uniformity in respect of how these rules are applied. I think at the present time there are 3 different types of interpretations. 3 different types. That is, there are 3 areas in which we think differently. That is, in Great Britain, Europe, and South America. And how best this can be achieved, well, is entirely up to FIFA. But most certainly it does concern me, and particularly as the World Cup competition is being held in South America next year.
Do you think there's a chance it could be cleared up, or at least improved before then?
I think it must be improved. If only one casts their mind back to Manchester United in South America, it has to be improved. And I think probably FIFA might have to adopt a different system with their selection of referees, whereby instead of choosing from so many referees from different countries, or referees from certain countries, I think they should choose or select the best referees, regardless of what country they come from.
During your years as England manager, I mean, you've had this terrific success. Have you received any invitations from league clubs to go back and manage a league club?
Yes, I have.
Could you tell me how many?
Not many, but some.
How much did you think about it at the time?
Very carefully, because I had a most encouraging time and successful time as a league club manager. And I think when I left the Ipswich Town Football Club to become the England team manager, I found it a very difficult thing, a very difficult position to accept, mainly because I was not involved and connected with players every day. With the England team, for example, you might see them once a month, you might see them once every 2 months. During the winter there was a gap of sometimes 3 or 4 months. And I missed it terribly.
Would you, in fact, at some stage in your career, still go back and manage a league club?
It depends. I think probably yes. I think probably I would like to go back to manage a league club before I end my days as a manager.
A great football career is enshrined and catalogued here. But what chance is there to divine the character of a man who's baffled his closest colleagues for upwards of 20 years? Brilliant, unquestionably. Dedicated to the last degree. Charming when he wants to be. As a friend, resolute. As an opponent, almost without mercy. It could just be that these are the qualities of genius. Sir Alfred Ramsey, the man who made England champions of the world.